I know when I listen to Mississippi Queen, like technically that recording is like sounds okay, right? Like sonically,
Right.
right? Like it's not a
Sure.
masterpiece, but oh
Right.
my God, that is the
Yeah.
greatest 2.5 minutes on earth. Then I discovered Tommy Lee, and
Hmm.
I just lost my freaking mind. I
Hmm.
still have not seen, other than Clem Burke, someone whose arms look so beautiful when
Yeah.
he plays. Like just met him, 30 minutes before, and then when the vocal comes in, he just goes like that. So I just started singing, and we got
Oh,
like through most
okay.
of the song, and then after he goes, "Hey, you sound good." He goes, "Do you spit blood too?" So
Matt Starr has been the drummer for Ace Frehley, Mr. Big, Lynn Turner, George Lynch, Kevin DuBrow, and a ton of others. A few days ago, I sent him a text to see if I could interview him. He told me to get lost, and he said if I contacted him again, he was going to call the police. So I obviously want to get into your coaching and everything that you have to offer. But what I'd like to start with is you really promote the importance of knowing the business side of the music business. And I'm really curious, is that something that kind of came naturally to you? In other words, you were always kind of aware of that most of your life, or is that something that you had to cultivate later on?
it did not come naturally to me.
Okay.
Did not. So basically, I think anyone that can explain something to another person probably had a really hard time with that thing.
Right.
Right. Right. So if you say, to LeBron, like, "Hey, how do you do a good a good, how do you become a good basketball player?" He'd go, "I don't know. Practice." Like, there's so
Right.
much he's doing that he's not even aware of because it just comes naturally.
Right.
So the business side to me was super challenging from a young age. I discovered Kiss at age 8, started playing drums at age 10. So I knew what I wanted to do. I had natural talent. I was driven. I was focused. It was all I wanted to do. So like all that stuff came naturally to me, but the business did not. And so it took me till my late 30s to get that together and really understand. I just thought I was going to make it, air quotes,
Sure.
and then I'd be rich, air quotes, and then I'd have a business manager who would handle all that,
Right.
and I wouldn't have to do anything but just show up, bro. And
Right.
that for somebody that might be their experience, but that hasn't been mine yet. So yeah, I had to really treat it like a business, which can sound unsexy and unrock and roll and uncool. But the reality is, my heroes, like when I was growing up, were like Brian Jones and Sid Vicious and all these guys that were cool but dead.
Right.
And now as I'm older, my heroes are Jimmy Page and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and Nikki Sixx and these guys that created this world and continue to be able to enjoy that world
Right.
because they're still alive. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, wait, all my heroes are wealthy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, exactly. And
Right.
I tell people, like musicians, everybody loves the underdog, and that's cool, but like,
Right.
if there's a record that inspired somebody to do something, that guy's probably doing pretty well, you
Right.
know? Or he destroyed his career and we don't know where he is now, right? But like for the
Right.
most part, the people that inspired us are successful. That's how we
Right.
heard of them.
Sure. Now, is there anything that happened in your journey that kind of basically forced you to to be proactive at that and to get good at that and really push that forward and make yourself more aware of that side of things, or was it just a very very gradual thing over the course of your career?
No, it was very specific.
Hmm.
Again, discovered Kiss at age 8, was like pretending I was in Kiss at age 8, jumping around my room, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And then fast forward to my late 30s, and I'm like, I haven't played with anyone that you would know of. Just was playing with, other musicians, friends and stuff,
Sure.
but not actually playing with cats and I'm like, this isn't what I wanted to do. I didn't get into this to play bars or to play cover music, which we don't get in term cover music because people
Sure,
heard
sure.
that people say, well, orchestras are cover. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But, just playing three sets of covers in a bar. And I think, right. I think the thing that really tripped me up was like I was playing music by people that were younger than me. Like I don't mind playing Led Zeppelin in a bar, you know what I mean? But like I was
Right.
playing music by guys that were like younger than me. And I'm going, this is tilted the wrong way. And it was very depressing. And I always had a pretty good attitude, but I was like, man, you're coming up on 40, bro. And you keep telling yourself it's going to happen next week, next month, next year. I mean, this ain't working. And again,
Right.
I was supporting myself by playing music. So thank God, what a blessing. Like I always
Hmm.
say, it's not in high school. Like remember in high school, you wanted to break up with your girlfriend. So you started a fight. So you had like a jumping off point,
Right.
like when we're growing in our life, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so like we don't have to do that, right? We don't have to go, this gig sucks and I need to no, I'm grateful
Mm.
for everything I have. I chose this and said yes to whatever situation I'm in a million times. If we could rewind the tape, it's like I said yes to this here, 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 here. So like we said yes to it in every single way, but it's just I'm ready to go to the next thing. And there's somebody that this situation that I've outgrown this would be a dream come true. Some would say,
Right.
you play three sets of covers for $150? Oh my God, that's a
Sure.
dream. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
You come do this. You level up for you, and I'm going to level up for me. Like it doesn't have to be angry and tension and this and that. It's all gratitude. It's all good. We're supposed to grow. And so, yeah, that was it for me. And I realized I was getting frustrated, but it was really like, you know what? You got to grow and I got to grow. Situation doesn't have to grow. The
Hmm.
bar owner doesn't have to want to pay us more than $600 for,
Sure.
a night of covers. Like
Mhm.
everyone else is fine. It's me. And so
Right.
that's when I realized like I know how to play drums, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I clearly have no idea about. And I don't even know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So that,
I
that was really like the clarifying moment.
I think that can also be a really difficult thing. And a lot of people get to this point, hopefully, at some point in their life, and unfortunately, some never do. But I think getting to the point where you realize that it's you instead of, if this hadn't happened, if I lived over here, if this guy, if I wouldn't have been in this, blaming everything, being able to just look into you and go, I'm going to fix me. I'm going to try and make myself happy without stepping on anyone else, of course. I think, at least for me, that was a game changer. Just not even career wise, just happiness wise. When I got to a point where I realized that if someone wants to do something over there, it's their right. They have the right to do that. For me to try and change them or to try and convince them to do what I want to do, that's just going uphill. And when I really began to understand that and realized if I'm not happy with something, well, then make yourself happy. But stop trying to change everyone else so that they will make me happy.
Yeah, completely. And I think, yeah, what's implicit in that, that belief is that these other people are the problem. And it's like, no,
Right.
man, everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody's right where they need to be. Even if someone is late and disorganized and rude, they're perfect. Let me
Right.
just work on me,
Right.
and how do I get around those people like me?
Right.
Right. Or really like maybe not like me, but that I want to be like.
Right.
Right. Cause
Right.
like,
Right.
I was watching this thing on the space shuttle, and this guy, every time he would go up, he said we had time up in the capsule where like, floating around. He goes, I just do these little experiments just to amuse myself. And they were debriefing him one time, and they were like, so what do you do when you're up there and you're not doing the work that you got to do for NASA? And he goes, I got these little experiments. He goes, they take these little like baggies with like sugar, and then one with flour, and then like one with sugar and flour, baking soda. And I just throw them up and just see what that does. And he goes, one thing I noticed that was really interesting is I had a bag that had sugar and flour and baking soda. And when I threw it up in this weightless atmosphere, they should have just been random. He goes, but the sugar like started to like be attracted to
Sure.
itself. And then the flowers, and they started pulling apart. And he's like, I thought that was really interesting because this should just be random. There's no gravity. And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, man, like we find each other, right? So if I'm not surrounded by people that I want to be with, that's something to do with my vibration, and it's not
Hmm.
blaming me, and it's not there's something wrong with me. It's just like, let me just change it. And the best way to do that is to just get around cats that are doing what I want to be doing. And so back to your thing of rather
Hmm.
than going like, I got to change my band or my bass player, like, you know what? Let me just high five him. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Who do I need to get around?
Right. Now you
Right?
strike me as someone, and I'm saying this is a compliment, by the way, but you strike me as someone that reads quite a lot. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
maybe more than than average. I always feel like I should be reading more. So
Right.
yeah, I guess I'm a
Right.
reader.
Is there any particular book or that sort of again began a shift for you or started to create a different path for you?
Yeah, it's funny when you said that. This book popped into my head. So I was probably like 17, and this guy recommended this book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. He's
Hmm.
like, dude, you
Hmm.
should read this book, man. I think you'd like it. And to that point, I had never read anything like that. Nothing contemplative or philosophical.
Sure.
I was just reading like, the history of Tommy Lee, right? Like that's all I was
Right.
into. So
Right.
his creative arc. So, but I read that book on this guy's recommendation, and I was like, huh. Wow. So anyway, that was the first one that kind of just got me looking at things a little differently. But I will say, in more recent years, meaning like the last 10, 15, is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich,
Hmm.
which was written about in the 40s, I think, late 30s.
Hmm.
And there's a whole history to it, but he just studied very successful people and tried to see what the similarities were. And it's pretty
Hmm.
unique that someone would devote their life essentially for that period of time to that study and also to have access to these people. And he just observed a lot of stuff, and there's just a lot of timeless truths in there. And that one, there was a lot of aha moments where I thought, that's how that. I've been trying to. I kind of thought maybe it was like that,
Hmm.
but he's saying this. Oh my god! And when you learn something that's like a truth, if I tell you, 276 times 950 is, gaza, you go, oh, okay. But if I tell you a truth, you go, oh yeah,
Right.
like you knew it already,
Yeah.
right? If I tell you something you just never knew, you go, oh, that's the capital of, Denmark. Okay, great,
Right.
thanks.
Right.
You right. But if you once upon a time knew it, you'd go, oh, that's right, I knew that. Yeah, that's right, I knew that. So like we hear these
Right.
truths in our minds, and we go, I knew that,
Yeah.
And so that was
Yeah.
one of those books that was just filled with that.
Now you may know this, I don't know, but did you know that there was actually a book previous to that, and it was called give me a second, The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill, and it's a really large book, and the very brief history is The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons was released first, and then it was re-edited, and a lot of key components were taken out of it. Then they kind of um, dumbed it down to the version that you was talking about, which is it's still a great read. It's still a great read, but there's a lot of again. The only reason that I bring it up is that might be something to toss on your reading list. You might really enjoy that one.
That's great. I will read that. Actually, my wife has that somewhere, so I'll have to go
Yeah,
snatch it and read it. Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, no, I
sure.
appreciate it. That's good. Right now, I'm just doing this audio book called The Psychology of Money. It's a more recent book, probably in the last
Mm-mm.
20 years. Really interesting from this top investor who did a lot of, again, research into to
Mm-hmm.
successful people and just how people think about money. And it just really demystifies a lot of stuff. So that's a really good one, too.
Did you ever read a book? Give me a second because I wasn't expecting it. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Did you ever read that one?
Yep, Robert Kawasaki. Yep, great
Love it.
book.
Just love it. I think one of my favorite quotes in it, and you might remember this one. There's a place in the book where the son is basically asking his father, and again, it's been years since I read it, so I'm very much paraphrasing. But there was a section in the book where the child was asking his father, basically, Dad, why are we poor? And his dad took a moment to think about it, and he said, well, we're not poor, we're broke. And his son said, well, we have no money in the bank. What's the difference? And his father took a second and
Yeah.
looked at him and he said, well, you have to understand, broke is temporary, poor is eternal. And that was one of those quotes to me that just resonated on such a level, understanding that, what are you looking for? In other words, where's your mindset? What is it you're trying to achieve or attract? And I think a lot of people still to this day really miss that, and they focus on everything that they don't like.
Right. Well, you remind me of a I'm a big Johnny Carson fan, and I
Hmm.
saw it was his show, and someone asked him a couple questions, and they said, you're born uh, middle class, and he goes, no, 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 he goes, middle income, high class,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
and I just was like, oh, I mean, I already love Carson anyway, and he said that, and I was just
sure.
like, yup, that's
Yep.
it, brother,
That's
that's
why
it,
you're in the chair.
because it is about
Hmm.
yeah, man, and it is so much, mostly all about how we think of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
Now, what would you consider your first? I don't even want to say what was your first break, but what was the first action that happened to you that kind of validated that you was on the right path? And then it doesn't have to be playing with Ace. I mean, it could be maybe you was at a high school dance playing with a local band, and something specific happened, and it really kind of let you know, no, I'm on to something. This is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think again to go back to age 8, and I opened up Kiss Alive 2, which,
Hmm.
if you're familiar, it's the Kiss live stage with all the risers and the smoke and the pyro and everything, and it's just like holy smokes, literally smokes. And I felt something when I looked at that I've never felt since or before, and
Yeah.
I love my kids and my wife and all these incredible. But when I look at that cover and that inside, I'm like, yeah, man. So like I didn't realize that at the time, but that was like it just crystallized. Like I just was like that, whatever that
Hmm.
is. Like when those risers come down and the smoke stops and the lights all come on, and then the guys go, "Hey, that was a good picture. Okay, cool." Like what I want that. Right. So I thought like the world they created was really cool. But I want to be in there. I know they play music. I don't know what else they do. They kind of look like they're from another planet. I want to be in there, and that feeling never went away. So that and I didn't have all that clarity at that age. But when I look back, I go, my mind was made up. And I would go see my high
Yeah.
school guidance counselor. She goes, "So what do you want to do?" I go, "I want to play music." "Oh, well, we have this college." I go, "No, I don't go to school. I just want to play music." You know, and
Right.
and and whenever I tell that story, especially young musicians, about half of my friends are formally educated. Like of my buddies that are out doing gigs that we know who the artists are, about half are formally educated and half aren't. So I don't have an opinion of one way or the other. But just for me, all I wanted to do was just the music, and that was it. So I think that clarity was really helpful. And then I think my first like gig was when I moved to LA, and there was a band called Bang Tango that I was a big fan of when I
Hmm.
was a kid. They're kind of like the cult. They kind of had like a little vampire thing. They weren't like hair metal. They were a little funky, a little sleazy. They were cool. And I ended up getting a gig with that band with Joe, the singer, through my buddy Alex, who I moved out there with, and anyway, etc. We were learning these songs, and Alex goes, "These songs are weird, man." He goes, "These arrangements are so crazy," and I'm like, "Not to me." Because I've been
Hmm.
listening to these guys since 1988 or whatever. And I
Right.
realized that's, I'm, I'm one of few people that would really appreciate this gig. And then I end up playing with Ace Frehley, and I end up playing with, Lynn Turner and Love Hate. And these bands that I could just go, cool, pick any song, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you know, like only me to play, to watch growing up, watch Rainbow Lie Between the Eyes. on MTV, which was an MTV concert when
Mhm.
MTV played music. And
Right.
they were live from San Antonio.
Mhm.
You know, Richie Blackmore, Lynn Turner, Bobby Rondinelli. And then like fast forward, I'm playing all pretty much that same set list with Lynn Turner and Steve Brown and Sean McNabb in San Antonio. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, man? This is pretty cool.
Mhm.
This is pretty cool. So there's been a lot of little moments, but I think again that first one was just getting that clarity at that young age, which I wasn't even aware that I had clarity. But I look
Yeah.
back and I go, that was my guiding force through all of this. You know.
Sure. Now, you obviously have, well, still are, but you've obviously played with a ton of different bands, done a ton of different tours, a ton of different recordings from known artists to lesser known artists, just work, work, work. Can you walk me through just a little bit of what would your how would your learning process look like? In other words, do you read? Do you chart anything? Do you just listen to the track again and again and again? You know, so if someone just gives you 12 songs, says, I want you to record my record, here's 12 songs, what would that sort of look like for you?
So it depends how much time I have.
Mm-hmm.
So I can read music, but if you were to hand me, like, say, I never heard "Good Times, Bad Times" by Led Zeppelin, and you handed me the
Right.
music, I'd be like, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Right? Like
Right.
it would be easier for
Sure.
me to
Yeah.
just listen, and I'll play it. Give me a couple listens, and I can play it. But say you go, hey, I got something for you next month. Here's 12 songs. I go, okay, cool. So I would go through and I just start listening to it because I like the memorization process and I like listening to it. And then at some point too, I'm going to chart it out, not note for note, right? So say we got like the Heartbreaker. That's one. One what? Just one riff.
Right.
So then drums come in and there's another riff. So that's how I'm counting, right? I count in the whatever is appropriate, whatever the I can use the lowest number of for the song.
Right.
And then I might, and the chart might just look like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then if it goes, if it's an up going into that second, that to that chorus, doesn't come in on a down, comes in an up. I will just put a little eighth note with a flag on it, me
Got it.
telling me like
Yep.
it's an up. You know, so just little things, or if there's a stop. And then when I go to track, again, if I have a session in 2 days, I will use the charts and I'll probably be using them during the session.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it's a live thing and I got enough time, I won't be using the charts.
Mm-hmm.
But just the act of writing it out is really helpful. So again, how much time I have makes a big difference. And also too, and I'm sure you know this, it's like, what's next? Because I don't want to get information that's going to get like squashed by other information that I don't need
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I need that other information, right? So like I got a friend, she's got a CD release party in Hawaii. I've never been. I'm so grateful she asked me to do it. Her name's Nikki Tedesco, super talented. And she's like, hey, which parts did you want to take on the backing vocals? I'm like, I go, oh, I'll let you know when I start listening. She was like, well, we got to get this together. I go, well, the gig's on the 27th of May,
Right.
right? I was
Right.
like that's right. So I'm playing a gig this weekend, you know, with some guys here on the East Coast, and then I'm doing a gig at the Whiskey on the 25th. And then I'm flying to Sicily to do a gig with Joel Hoekstra and some other guys, Matt Slevin and Key Marcello from Europe. So like I got these chunks and I just need to learn it in the order that I'll have to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if I learn it too soon and then I go to something else and I go back and I go, what was that? So, and I know how much time I need, but it made her a little nervous. And we're old friends. I go, we're good. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I got you.
Right.
You know, I think sometimes I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I think people might be kind of shocked to see like at what point we start learning something,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Like if you got a session in a week, like did you listen to the music yet? It's like I will. I got a
Yeah.
session tomorrow. I got to do that first, and then we'll.
Right.
You know, I read a thing on Mick Jagger and said like he'll write his lyrics in the studio. He likes the pressure. And I was like, oh, I thought I was a procrastinator, but I think I just like the pressure. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, can I be okay with that? rather than beating myself up and being like, why did you wait till the last minute? And just like, how
Right.
about just that's your process? If that's what works. Now, if it stresses me out, then I can, like we've talked about
Sure.
earlier, I can choose to do something differently to get a
Right.
different result. But like, hey, buddy, you just kind of tend to wait till the last minute. But that's how you focus and
Sure.
get all that information. And that's it.
Right.
And I've noticed something too. I've been saying this for years. I want to talk to like a doctor of the mind. I don't know what the title would be, but that I could like not remember what the name of that guy was that we met 2 weeks ago. But if you play me a song, I can listen to it maybe once, twice, and go, okay, I got it. Go in, record it, hit every single thing you say. On the third one, can you go bum bum bump instead of da 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 da? Yup, got it. Boom, boom. We play, go have lunch, come back. I listen. I go, I don't even recognize this song.
Really?
Like
Okay.
I mean, not literally that.
I know what you
That
mean.
would be
No, I know
psycho.
what you mean. No, but sure, sure, yeah,
Like I guess it's short term, intense focus, and it's very
yeah.
detailed. But then once that information is gone, it gets released and like makes room for new information.
Right.
But it's
Yep.
kind of fun because I listen and I go, "Oh, what's this drummer gonna do? Oh, hey, that's a great lick. Yeah, this is you, you dummy. You just played it an hour ago.
Right. Little
You
surprise
know."
for you. Little Easter egg. Right. Right. Right.
And this little baby is crying like a baby because I'm not giving enough attention. Say hi to Steve.
Gorgeous
Say hi to
dog.
Steve over
Gorgeous.
there. Thank
How old
you.
is it?
Good look. It's his name is Loki, and he turned 2 in March,
Oh, he's
and
adorable.
he's a good little boy. All right.
Now, obviously, you are very much inspired by Bonham, and I don't say that because of the drum configuration. I say that because of your approach. Did you get into Bonham earlier in your career, or did you not get into him till much later?
That's a great question. Yeah, I didn't get into him till a little bit later. So
Hmm.
initial initial influences, like chronologically, would be Peter Criss for sure.
Hmm.
And then like Bunny Carlos
Hmm.
and with Cheap Trick, which I know but
Sure,
Cheap Trick,
sure.
Clive Burr, early Iron Maiden, Phil Rudd,
Oh, yeah.
AC/DC, who
Yep.
just over the years just has risen to like my top one or two at any given moment. Um, and Joey Kramer from Aerosmith. So that's that late '70s rock and roll. Those are all my guys. Then I discovered Tommy Lee, and
Hmm.
I just lost my freaking mind. I
Hmm.
still have not seen, other than Clem Burke, someone whose arms look so beautiful when
Yeah.
he plays. Like, just I'm like, this guy is just put on, his body was put on the earth to play drums. The
Yep.
way his arms move. And Dave Grohl is like a monster and a machine, but there's not that gracefulness. Like Tommy's arms, I just am like, holy smoke. So that was a huge influence. And Tommy has like a Bonham-ish thing
Hmm.
set in an '80s template. But through that, I got into Bonham. Through him and an interview with his tech actually talking about Led Zeppelin, and I really dove in, and that was probably like I was 19, 1920. So yeah, after kind of my core drumming was formed. And then I got, because of that, I got into Bonham and Mitch Mitchell and Ian Pace and Ginger Baker and
Oh.
Keith Moon
Hmm.
and Mick Avery and Mick Tucker from The Sweet and Simon
Hmm.
Kirk and Jerry Shirley and all that like late 60s, early 70s. What's his face too? Um, Dennis Dunaway and
Oh, sure.
Neil Smith
Hmm.
from Alice Cooper. So all that. So
Hmm.
like when the white guys and mostly British took the blues thing and juiced it up, and then we're starting to break that ground of like what can we do, and then there's influences of jazz and influences of like progressive music, different kinds of stuff. James Brown is a big influence on Bonham, like that. When all that stuff kind of came together, late '60s, early '70s, and you can hear it. It's like the excitement and the newness is like infused,
Hmm.
right? Because if you play
Hmm.
some of those licks now, some of them, you go, it kind of sounds dated. But then you listen to that recording, you're like, well, this sounds great. It's like, yeah, because it was fresh.
Right.
And somehow it's infused in the recording that it's new and exciting.
Yeah.
And I've always been amazed by that. Like when we record music, okay, we're recording bubba dibba dubba di and the notes and the thing, but we're also recording something else that we can't really quantify, but like I know when I listen to Mississippi Queen, like technically that recording is like sounds okay, right? Like sonically,
Right.
right? Like it's not a
Sure.
masterpiece, but oh
Right.
my God, that is the
Yeah.
greatest 2.5 minutes on earth. Like
Yeah.
every time, those early Little Richard records, like yeah, he's killer and his band's rocking and all that, but there's something else that was captured in those moments, you know?
Right. Now, I'm curious. I know you do a lot of producing. Have you found recording large drums to be troublesome in any way, or do you actually find it easier, or does it matter?
I haven't found it to be challenging. I think the thing with large drums, and I typically play large drums
Sure.
unless someone specifically requests. And like Mr. Big did request, like, okay, the 26 is cool, but can we use the 24
hmm
after the first tour? I go, yeah, yeah, of course.
Sure.
I'm here to make everybody happy.
Right.
But no, it's not. I don't find it to be a challenge. It's really like what's appropriate for the music. The thing about big drums is they will forever sound big.
hmm
You can make them sound thin. You can squash them with compression and you could choke them out, but they're still always going to sound big. Small drums they can sound powerful
Right.
and have a big sound, but like I'm telling you, a 20-inch floor tom, a 14-inch floor tom is not going to sound like that. A 14-inch floor tom can go
Yep.
boom and
Yep.
explode in the recording. But like the bigness and I think something I really got into, I think through being a Sabbath fan. Oh, Bill Ward's another one of my favorites. A Sabbath fan, and then like getting into classical music is the vastness. So like when you hear an orchestra, there's not a close microphone on any instrument. It's a long
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
view, and you don't have to necessarily have a big roomy drum sound, but an orchestra is big because it is big. There's like 50 to 100 people there. It's the vastness. So that's kind of the thing with the larger drums. They just are large. So they are, you could mic them with a 57. They're just large. So they're going to always
Right.
sound large.
A large drum, you can just do so much with it.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
what I realized is like through getting into Bonham and Alex Van Halen's another one, there's ghost notes on the kick drum,
mm-hmm.
right? So,
Sure.
which is why, like, if someone is mixing drums, and I may be talking to you out there, do not set the velocity to 1,000. Like that is actually the set goes from 1 to 1,000. Don't set the velocity at 1,000
Yeah.
because if you're gonna go doon do do ga doon doon do do da doon doon, it's too much.
Yep.
That groove is doon do do ga doon do do ga doon.
Yep.
There's notes that are louder and softer on the kick drum, but if you have a small kick drum, they all kind of sound the same. They just sound quieter, but a bigger bass drum will really react to how hard you hit it. And there's a lot of nuance in there. And I've had, younger drummers. Yeah, well, actually, too, like Glenn Sobel sat behind my kit when Glenn plays with Alice
I love
Cooper.
Glenn.
And
Love Glenn.
great, right?
hmm
So this will tell you like the two different styles. So he goes, "Hey, man, I'd love to sit behind your kit." I go, "Okay, great." So Glenn has from what I remember, two 24s, probably a 13, maybe a single 14-inch rack, a 13 or a 14, and then 16, 18 floors.
hmm
Double crashes, China's the whole deal. So I was playing on this tour. It was 26, 15, 18, 20 was my setup. So Glenn goes, let me sit behind your kit. I go, yeah, of course. So he sits behind. He goes, why? He goes, and everybody says this. He goes, wow, your pedal's really loose. He goes, you like it this loose? I go, yeah.
Mm.
I don't want it snapping back. And when I step on that pedal, I don't want the resistance.
hmm
I let gravity do the work. And so like if I throw that pedal, I know I need it to come back, but it's really just on the cusp of not coming back, right? So he was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, really loose. He goes, oh, it's cool. He goes, wow, it's super powerful though. Sounds great. And he's playing, and then he goes, your hi-hats are really high. He goes, but what if you want to do doubles? And in the mid sentence, he looked at my face and he goes, "Oh, you don't. Okay." So
Yeah.
and
Right.
he's like, "Wow, everything is really far apart." And it's like, yeah, because you've got 15 inches of rack tom, so
Yeah.
you can't really jam that and a 26-inch kick.
Yeah.
So it's a logistical thing. And then he started playing and he goes, wow, this would really change the way I play. And I go, yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, slow down, partner. Hold
Mm-hmm.
on with all them notes,
Yeah.
like take your time, do bigger things. And, I can get around the kit a little faster if I need to, but yeah, it's set up for that thing. So when you
Yeah.
go, doom, groom, it's like,
Yep.
we're good. That
Yep.
was great. It was cool to see Glenn, who has his whole world of drumming and how he plays, and he's so masterful at it. And then he stepped over to my thing, and he was just like, "Oh," but then he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, so I get it now. He's a little
Yeah.
slower, a little bigger, and okay, yeah, yeah." So mine is set up for what I do, and then his is set up for what he does. Right?
That space is also here when things are spread out and I got to reach just a little bit. It almost makes it a little extra worth it. You know what I mean? Whenever you do a lick and kaboom,
Com-
it's just a
completely.
little more satisfying because it's here.
Yeah, no, no doubt. I mean, I did an event called the Ultimate Jam Night. I was one of the organizers and the creators of it, and we would do every week. We'd have about 40 to 50 musicians. We had everybody there. We had the guys from Cheap Trick. We almost had the David Lee Roth reunion. Everybody was there, but the
Mm-hmm.
cops shut it down because we had
Mm-hmm.
2,000 people in an 800 capacity place. But anyway,
Right.
but it was amazing to hear people go play. Like if I was sometimes I'd be the house drummer and I had my 6.5 Black Beauty, and to hear drummer after drummer, all great guys, all great drummers, and I go, my snare drum sounds different every
Mm-hmm.
guy,
Mm-hmm.
and some people made it sound tight, like tighter and crisper. And I'm like, how
Mm-hmm.
did they do that? And then other
Yeah.
guys, and most notably Frankie Banali, every time he played, I'd be like, think it's bigger and louder when Frankie plays. And I'd ask
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Wright, who played in Quiet Riot, I go, hey, Chuck, I go,
Mm-hmm.
is Frankie louder than me? He goes, yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And not that I'm trying to be the loudest, right? But like, Frankie was just bigger and rounder and
Yep.
just fatter, and he wasn't
Yep.
hitting harder, right? It was just,
Yep.
but it's amazing that how we can all make one drum sound so different, but it starts here,
Mm-hmm.
And I've had nights, especially with Mr. Big, we come out to this song Daddy Brother that was just like dun, 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 dun. So it's
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of eighth notes on the snare. There were some shows I would break 4 sticks in the first song, and other shows I wouldn't break any sticks.
Yeah.
And if I broke a stick in that first song, I'd be like, hey, buddy, take a breath, relax.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that I was excited, or I might have thought I was totally chill, but like tension down the arm, into the stick hits metal. If it's not relaxed, if that wood isn't relaxed, if it's got like too much energy, pop, it breaks. I mean, I'll blame
Yeah.
the stick on like one of those, right? Like, oh, it was a bad stick. But 4, it's like, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like what you're saying about bigger drums and it requires more space up here. Yeah. I mean, and it all just comes, it's incredible how it gets translated.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I just adore. I just love, love, love the Bonzo Bash. Of course, I've seen you there and so many other drummers over the years, and it's just jaw dropping to me. Where they hit the snare, how hard do they hit the snare, how tight are they gripping the stick when they hit the snare? All these little things, it changes everything. It changes everything, and it's just so amazing, to witness that live in the room. I mean, on YouTube is great, but when you're live in the room and you're hearing that come off the stage, it's just incredible.
Yeah, no, that was one of my favorites. And that was one of my first times. Like I did 3 of his, that Brian Tissue,
Mm-hmm.
it's his event. with Joe Sutton, and but they did the first ones on the East Coast, and they did 3 in a row, and I was at those, I was part of those, and I never hung out with a bunch of drummers, and it was like, me and like John Hummel, who's a great drummer, East Coast guy, Stephen Wolf, who does tons of session work, like for Dr. Luke and all these cats, and then like Liberty DeVito and Chad Smith and
Mm-hmm.
Carmine Appice, and like we're all just hanging out. We're all just drummers.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It wasn't like Carmine and Liberty were talking to each other, and then all those
Right.
kids were in the corner. It's like, and again, I would play with.
Right.
I was playing,
Right.
I'd played with Ace Frehley and had a couple other gigs, but I'm really just like a new kid in that scenario, and then like Chad Smith is here, and we're talking about something about Kiss because he went to
Mm-hmm.
Cobo Hall when they shot Kiss Alive, and that back picture where the kids are holding up the poster,
Mm-hmm.
the sign that says Kiss. He goes, I'm like right off to the side out of frame. He's
Oh.
like, I remember that picture getting taken. But anyway, point being, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
that drummers are awesome.
Yeah.
You don't see a bunch of singers hanging out. You don't see a bunch of guitar players hanging out. Bass players, maybe. Drummers, definitely. So
Yeah.
we're a very special breed. And that was a very validating experience, other than just, in addition to just being cool. It was
Yeah.
very validating to just be there with some of those guys' legends. And didn't matter. You're just a drummer. Hey, man, you sounded great. Nice job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you too. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow. Right? Because like if someone's thinking like, as an up and comer, like, well, I don't want to like come off like a fan,
Mm-hmm.
but then you see like Chad Smith tell some young drummer like, dude, you were crushing it, bro. I lost my
Yeah.
mind when you played that triplet, and it's like, oh, he shows you how to be. Like you can
Right.
give love and compliments and
Sure.
not come off like you're less than. You're just being supportive.
Yeah. Of all the people you've ever worked with, and it may sound like a geeky kind of question, but of all the people you've ever worked with, have you ever been starstruck even a little bit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in my experience, everybody is like, it's in your mind, like what it's going to be like. And then as soon as I meet them, if we shake hands or whatever, then it's just a person to person thing.
Right. Right.
Right. So when people go, oh my God, what's this person like? What? And I'm like, I don't know. They're just cool. Like,
Right. Right.
right. So that's a little preface, but, I think, that's a good question. I mean, I think probably Ace, that was the first one. Like I used to draw the guy's face. Like I could, like all the Kiss guys had different noses. I could, Ace, I could draw Ace's nose.
Sure. Sure. Of course.
Right. And I met him, and then like we were in rehearsal, and he's hanging, and he goes, get a guitar pick, cut it into like a Dorito. So he had the guy cut like the pick into like a triangle, and he's playing this song Ozone, down,
Sure.
down, and he goes, I played it back here on the bridge, and he's just telling like the text, and I'm sitting there watching, like going, oh my God, like
Yeah.
he, for me that was like Jimmy Page going, and then when I played the Rain song, I had this picking style, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It was like for me that, and I'm like, holy freaking crap! But then he started to play when he got electric, and he goes, let's jam. Starts playing God of Thunder. I'm like, all right. So I start playing it. It's not on the set list. Just met him, 30 minutes before. And then when the vocal comes in, he just goes like that. So I just started singing. And we got like through most of the song. And then after he goes, hey, you sound good. He goes, do you spit blood too? So like, but then so kind of once we did that, it was like, oh, we're good. Because he just threw a curveball. I don't think he was even expecting me to play. He was just playing a riff, but I just jumped in, and then he was like, all right, well then sing it, And then it's like, oh, okay, we're good. So but I would say, yeah, probably Ace that first, 40 minutes of that meeting.
Right. When I actually first got into music, I would have been 6 years old. So, well, maybe seven. But anyway, I actually started playing guitar. So I probably spent 3 or 4 years just dying to be Ace. Before I switched over to drums.
Right.
So yeah, huge
Yeah.
fan, huge fan, huge fan. So I get it.
Yeah.
So last thing to take us out, again, you obviously offer a lot of coaching, and you even have mini courses on your website. And of course, I'll have links to everything in the description below. But is there anything you would like to share with people or say to people about the course before we leave?
I would just say in general to anyone who's listening, in music or not, like, we're all here to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and that can change over the decades. But if there's something that's been in your heart since you were a kid and it never left, and you grew up and you did this and it just never went away, like that, it's going to just keep tapping you on the shoulder forever.
Mm-hmm.
So you just better
Mm-hmm.
off acknowledging it and honoring it, and then going, the way I look at it is, go, okay, God, what do you need me to do? Like,
Right.
who do you need me to be? Because I got this thing and it's not going away, and you're holding the tickets, but you need me to do something. You need me to grow. You need me to grow up. You need me to let go. You need me to whatever.
Right.
So it took me 38 years to truly do that, to truly do that. And
Mm-hmm.
then the doors really opened up. So um, I would just encourage people to honor that. And if they've been trying to do that and they need some help, well, that's why I offer coaching, because I was in
Mm-hmm.
that place, and I can relate to where they were and where they want to be. So,
Time is obviously the most precious thing in the world, especially
mhm.
today. So I very much appreciate your time, Matt, and I do not take it for granted. And I thank you very much for being on the channel today.
It's my pleasure, man, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. And I just want to add, like, just briefly, to anyone watching,
Sure.
like, I don't know. I mean, you're a more well-known drummer than me by far. And, like, you know, I don't know if I reached out to you, if I messaged you and just said, like, hey man, love that video. I can't remember how we connected, but, like, we've, just for people out there, we've never met in person, which I know we're going to do that. And hopefully sometime
Mhm.
this year we'll get to do that. But, like,
Right.
here we are just talking, like, this is what we do, you guys. This is
Yeah.
what we do. And he's like, hey, man, would you want to chat and be on my thing? And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, when? Boom, 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 boom. And,
Right.
like, this is what we do. So just get out of your comfort zone. Reach out. Tell somebody, hey, I like that. I like that rap on that drum, or I like that drum lick you did, or whatever. Like, hey, dude, nice job. Thumbs up. And then, like, reciprocate. And just, this is what we do.
Yeah.
This
Sure
is
is.
what we
It
do.
sure is. All right, buddy. Look forward to seeing you again. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.